All right, ready for a deep dive. Today we're tackling something everyone experiences. Emotions. Well, the not so fun ones anyway.
Right.
Stress, anger, sadness, that whole messy side of things. And our source, get this, a YouTube video. It's called Learning English with Podcast Conversation Episode 01 from a channel called Podcast Speak English.
Oh, interesting. Using language learning to get into feelings.
Exactly. It's two English instructors. They use this dialogue about, get ready for it, a stressed out boyfriend, to teach vocabulary for all those negative emotions.
Clever. Sneak in some emotional intelligence while you're learning new words. I wonder, though, how deep can you really go in a language lesson?
That's what I thought, but they get into some surprisingly nuanced stuff. Like they talk about feeling down versus having the blues. We all know what sadness is, but I don't know, is there a difference there?
Oh, absolutely. Feeling down is more, temporary, just a little dip. But having the blues, that's got more weight to it, more melancholy, maybe even loneliness mixed in.
It's like choosing the right shade of blue to paint with. Then they use the word grouchy about the boyfriend.
Oh.
But they're careful to say it's not quite anger, full-blown anger.
Key distinction, right. Like they're breaking down the levels of anger. Grouchy is that irritability, simmering, but could boil over. It's Oscar the Grouch, basically.
I'm picturing Oscar in a relationship now. Not going well. But speaking of things not going well, they hit on stressed out. Feels like everyone's default these days, right? Especially young people juggling everything.
It's become almost a badge of honor to be stressed out. The source, though, they point out, it comes from real pressure. Deadlines, school, even family stuff. It's that feeling of just too much.
When does stressed out cross the line into, chronic anxiety, though?
Yeah, when do you know it's time to hit pause and deal with it before it, explodes?
Exactly. Like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Let off some steam.
Love that. Okay, this next one really got to me. Nerve-wracking. They're talking about those heart-racing, sweaty palms experiences, like suspense movies, roller coasters, even being a surgeon, they say. Oh, I feel that. Those moments where you're just waiting for something to happen, good or bad. And I like how they connect nerve-wracking to the physical stuff. Emotions really are in the body, huh?
Absolutely. And speaking of physical feelings, there's on edge, too. Seems close to nerve-wracking, right? That heightened anxiety, like you're one step away from snapping.
What's interesting there is it often comes from feeling out of control. Someone quitting smoking, for instance. Cravings, withdrawal, you can't just make it stop.
You're right, that feeling of on edge. There's tension there, like something's gonna give.
Exactly. Which brings us to lose your temper. The instructors even ask the listener what makes them lose it. We all have those buttons, right? Something that just sets you off.
Oh, tell me about it. People who leave shopping carts in the middle of the parking lot, come on, you're blocking traffic.
I just read a study about that. Shopping cart etiquette, apparently.
Wait, there's a study. Tell me more.
It comes down to social responsibility, or lack of it. People leaving those carts. More self-centered, less caring about others' inconvenience.
So it's not just laziness, it's like disregard for other people.
Right. And that ties into the next phrase they use, brushing someone off, subtle aggression, dismissing how someone feels, usually when you're annoyed.
Oh, like making up an excuse to ditch plans. Can't go, gotta wash my hair kind of thing.
The classic. And it hurts, Sends the message you're not important enough to bother with. Like communication totally breaking down. Back again, continuing our deep dive, still using that language lesson to unpack all these emotions, which is pretty cool.
It is. And they fit so much into what's basically a vocab list. There was one phrase, though. Foul mood. Seems stronger than just down or grouchy.
Yeah. Foul mood is like negativity's taken over. Makes it hard to be around other people, too.
And that plays out in their example dialogue. Boyfriend's in a foul mood. Girlfriend tries talking. He shuts down completely, brushes her off, walls up, basically.
Total communication breakdown, fueled by bad feelings. Shutting down is withdrawing, self-protection from more conflict. And then brushing someone off on top of that. It's like, ouch, you didn't even try.
So the person in the foul mood pushes away help, even though that's maybe what they need. Yeah. But I've been wondering, is it always pushing away? Or could it be trying not to burden the other person?
That's a good point. It might be a messed up way of protecting someone. If I keep this in, they won't get hurt, kind of thinking. But holding it all in usually hurts more in the long run.
And the instructors say this is especially true for men having trouble expressing stuff. Like acting aggressive or shutting down is hiding vulnerability, anxiety, sadness even.
It's society, how men are supposed to act. Strong, stoic, in control, so they bottle up anything that seems weak.
Stuck in this emotional box, can't express themselves, can't get support. It's that whole boys don't cry thing, right?
Yeah.
So harmful.
Totally. Like feeling things is somehow unmanly, but it can lead to so much stress, isolation, even mental health problems down the line.
So how do we get out of that? The instructors are all about communication, but that's tough when it's so ingrained, right? These societal expectations.
Tough, but we got to talk about it. Challenge those old ideas. Make spaces where men can express themselves without judgment. And it's not just talking, it's being open to hearing it from others, too.
Two-way street. In the dialogue, the girlfriend tries to cheer up the boyfriend, but he's not having it. When do you say, okay, I've tried, but this is pointless?
That's a hard one. Relationships take two, right? One person constantly shutting down, it breeds resentment, burnout. Sometimes walking away is healthiest, even if it's hard.
Makes you realize you have to protect yourself emotionally, too.
Yeah.
But then, how do you know when it's supporting someone through a hard time versus when it's enabling them?
It's finding that balance. Needs self-awareness, honest talking. Gotta ask, am I helping or am I just letting this go on unhealthily?
It's like can't pour from an empty cup. Got to take care of yourself, too.
Exactly. Self-care is essential. And the instructors, they kind of show that in the video. They each have their way to handle stress. One likes shopping, the other organizes things.
Now that you mention it,
Yeah.
what do you do when you're stressed out or feeling overwhelmed?
Honestly, long walk in nature does it for me. Disconnect, clear my head, just be present. The rhythm of walking, it helps me think things through too.
I love that. Walking meditation. They really emphasize those are their things, right? No one right way to deal with emotions. What works for one person might not for another.
Exactly. Find what clicks for you, what makes you feel grounded. Could be people, music, mindfulness, even a hot bath. Be intentional about it. That's what matters.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive. Who knew we'd get so much out of a language lesson about, of all things, emotions?
Right. And one thing that stood out to me was how open they were, the instructors, about their own experiences, even losing their temper, sharing their pet peeves and all that.
It made them relatable. Like, even the experts, the ones teaching communication, they struggle with the same stuff we do. They said everyone has those triggers, right? The things that just set you off. Messy room for one of them, repetitive noises for the other.
Yeah, it shows what might bug one person is no big deal to someone else. And that's huge for, understanding each other better, empathy, all that.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's not about judging someone's triggers. It's realizing we're all wired differently. Oh, and I thought their discussion about how men and women express emotions, that was eye-opening.
Me too. They hit on how much is societal, Like, we're given different rule books based on gender. Men got to be strong and stoic. Women are allowed to be more emotional. No wonder we misunderstand each other.
It's like we're speaking different languages, but emotionally.
Yeah.
And these unspoken rules, they hold us back from really being ourselves, don't they?
Big time. Makes you wonder how much of what we feel is truly us versus what we're told to feel.
That's a deep thought. So if we're all playing by different rules, how do we change the game? They were big on open communication, but that's easier said than done, especially when it's so ingrained, all this societal stuff.
It is. But first, you got to be aware of it. Recognize those limiting beliefs and then, push back against them. We need spaces where it's safe to be honest about our feelings, no judgment.
Giving each other permission to be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Step outside the gender roles and just feel what you feel.
Exactly. And that vulnerability, it's what makes relationships stronger, deeper connection, all that.
This deep dive has been, it's made me think. We went from a simple language lesson to some pretty big questions about human nature, communication, how emotions work, all of it.
It's funny how that happens, right? You start in one place and end up somewhere totally unexpected. Sometimes those everyday things, those little lessons, are the ones that stick with you.
Before we go, I want to loop back to something we talked about before. Finding healthy ways to deal with stress. When you're overwhelmed or just plain down. The instructors had their own things. You mentioned walking in nature.
It's my reset, Gets me back in touch with myself. Reminds me, self-care isn't a luxury. It's essential for feeling good.
So as we wrap up, think about what brings you joy. What helps you recharge, feel grounded. Spending time with people you love, maybe. Music, reading, or even just taking a moment to breathe and appreciate things.
Whatever it is, make time for it. Your emotional health matters just as much as your physical health.
We hope this deep dive's given you some food for thought about the world of emotions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep feeling.
And never underestimate the power of a good conversation.
See you soon.